Hello and welcome to this videocast for subscribers to davidicke.com. Well, there's been a lot in the news recently about students at Oxford University and others in South Africa campaigning to remove statues of Cecil Rhodes. Rhodes was a frontman for the House of Rothschild and plundered southern Africa for gold and diamonds on their behalf, and also plundered, yes, and also enslaved people in southern Africa on behalf of the British Empire, which in many ways was another way of saying Rothschild. The great British Empire was great in the sense that it was big. But what we hear about all the time now, and I'm going to come to that in a second, is about British values. Now, there are many nice people in Britain with decent values of fairness, of justice. But the British establishment that runs the place and ran the great British Empire wouldn't know a value if one bit them on the arse. And Rhodes was a great symbol of this plundering, this acquisition of much of the world for the benefit, not in the end of Britain, but of those that controlled Britain and still do. So I understand why students can see a Rhodes statue as a symbol of all that. But, you know, people can get so focused on the twigs that they can't see the forest. And the biggest form of colonialism is colonizing the mind. And if the same focus and outrage was set upon what is happening in terms of education in all its forms, being little more than a programming operation to download the official version of everything. And if they looked with the same vehemence as they do at a Rhodes statue at the way this programming is becoming more and more blatant, then we might have a chance of protecting what's left of freedom of choice, and freedom of expression. Never mind a statue. What's happening all the time and what is gathering pace all the time? This is a definition of colonialism. The policy or practice of a wealthy or powerful nation's maintaining or extending its control over other countries, especially in establishing settlements or exploiting resources. Fair enough, everybody will recognize that as a definition of colonialism. But here's another: the system or policy by which a nation seeks to extend or retain its authority over other peoples or territories. And the territory that I'm talking about is the human mind. It's the focus of everything in terms of authority and the establishment, because if you are the few and you want to control the many, you can't do it physically. You can in small areas, you can in some ways, but overall you can't. To control the vast majority, you have to control the way they think and the way they perceive both themselves and the world around them, so that they will accept things that suit your agenda. And a teacher sent me this week. It's it's kind of a document. It's gone out from government to schools and teachers, and it's called Extremism, Radicalisation, here we go, British Values. And these British values are defined in this thing as democracy. That means David Cameron's current government getting almost total power from 37% of the vote. The rule of law. The rule of law is that people you have no control over make law, and then you obey it, no matter how ludicrous or freedom destroying it is. Individual liberty, that's a British value. It's being deleted by the day. They don't recognise individual liberty, they want an end to it. This should be extremism, radicalisation, British values, brackets, bullshit. This has gone out to teachers apparently. Another British value, mutual respect and tolerance of different faiths and beliefs. That obviously includes bombing people with brown faces all over the bloody world. Okay, so as a school, we help pupils instill these values through our curriculum and teaching, dictated by the state, through how we operate our school, dictated by the state, our attitudes and actions, dictated by the state, or you'll soon lose your job, darling. What we do and how we do it, dictated by the state. Everything that we offer, dictated by the state. But what this is about is finding and sifting out possible radicalisation. Dangerous people. And this is some behaviour to watch according to this thing. Some factors can indicate that a young person, stroke child, may be vulnerable to radicalisation, and these include a view that their religion or culture is under threat and unfairly treated. Well, what if it is? What if it's a genuine feeling? A tendency, this is the big one, a tendency to look for conspiracy theories and distrust of the media. So, if you are awake enough and bright enough and deprogrammed enough to realise that governments lie and manipulate and engineer events that suit them, or rather, more than that, the hidden hand that controls them and works through them, then you are a possible threat because you are becoming radicalised. And if you do not trust a mainstream media with an entire history of lies, manipulation, bias, then you are possibly a danger because you are becoming radicalized. Now, like all of these things, there is a apparent reason for it, and then there's the real reason for it. Same with laws. The apparent reason for this is preventing radicalization of Islamic nature, i.e. use the fear of ISIS to justify this stuff. So people say, yeah, we've got to stop the kids getting radicalized and going off to Syria. Well, if the British and the Americans and the French hadn't gone off to Syria, dropping bombs in all directions, then maybe Syria will be a different place today. But people see it from that point of view. So not everybody, more and more people are waking up, but most people still see it from that point of view. Yeah, we've got to stop radicalisation, but that's not what it's about. It's about stopping anything, any questioning, any realization, any view that is bad for the state, exposes the state, questions the state. That's what it's really all about. And all this Islamic radicalization to justify this stuff is all flannel and all front. Other behavior to watch in case kids are becoming radicalized is the need for identity and belonging. Oh, that's terrible, that, isn't it? The need for a sense of self and belonging. Oh dear, arrest them. The need for more excitement and adventure. Behavior to watch. Behavior to encourage. Easily susceptible to influence by others. They must be talking about teachers and head teachers being easily susceptible to influence by whatever the state tells them to do and think and teach. Other changes may include being more argumentative. Oh, don't stand your corner. Accept it. Bow. Acquiesce. Using terms them and us when referring to religion and culture. It's what governments do all the time. Do you think they refer to Gaddafi in Libya as an us? Or Assad in Syria as an us? It's them and us, British values, them, threatening British values. Spending, I love this one, spending increasing amounts of time online and being secretive. Well, that kind of mops up and sucks in virtually every bloody teenager. Vast numbers of them anyway. I wish they didn't spend increasing amount of time online and doing that. But they do. The idea that is radicalization. And these things are part of a process of squeezing and squeezing and squeezing more and more and more what people in general, but in this case, young people, can say, do, think, express before the state jumps in and labels it unacceptable. It's about suppression of freedom. That's what it's about, in every sense. Anyway, I found this on the internet, and it's from a school. I won't say what it is because it's just an example. It's not a one-off. It's a primary and nursery school, and it's headed British Values and the Prevention of Radicalisation. As if British values and the prevention of radicalisation stroke extremism are kind of opposite sides of the fence. You see, we've reached a point now where the Orwellian inversion has reached such an extreme that you vote for war, you vote for bombing, again, people with brown faces, and you are a moderate MP. You vote against bombing people overwhelmingly with brown faces, and you are a extremist MP. You are a radical MP. You're someone to fear. It's all a bloody mind game, and that's why education is so prime to this whole agenda of human control, downloading perception from the earliest ages, and why I would suggest looking at this, students of Oxford and elsewhere, is rather more relevant than some statue of some appalling excuse for a human being. So anyway, let's go through this. This is just a primary and nursery school, but it's what's happening. Starts off, the Department of Education have recently reinforced the need to, quote, create and enforce a clear and rigorous expectation on all schools to promote the fundamental British values of democracy. 37% gives you total power. The rule of law. We make the law, you obey the law. Whatever it is. Individual liberty and mutual respect and tolerance. Well, where's the tolerance there for someone having a different view and having the intelligence to see that there are conspiracies going on and to see that the mainstream media is not actually the whole foundation of truth and integrity? What it means is the liberty and mutual respect and tolerance, so long as you say what's acceptable to the state. The government set out its definition of British values in the 2011 Prevent strategy. And these values have been reiterated by the Prime Minister this year. Well, what are the views of a Prime Minister doing in a document going out in a primary and nursery school? It's like journalism. It's like anything that is of a communication area, that they should be above government and what government says. Because how can you have free communication of information, be it in education or in the media, if what the Prime Minister, the government says, is going to dictate how you do it and what you say and what you communicate? Here, says the document, democracy is taken very seriously. Well, that's a bloody first. Children are actively encouraged to have a voice and share their views and opinions regularly, so long as they conform to opinions that are acceptable to that document. Every September we have an election week when the candidates for class representatives on school council pitch their election manifesto for the rest of their class. Yeah, what they do is prepare them to accept this ludicrous abuse of freedom called democracy. All children also complete an annual questionnaire which provides them with the opportunity to share their views of learning and suggest ways in which the school could be improved further. And unless it conforms to what the government says should happen at that school, then it's straight in the bin. Or, hey, Johnny could be going through radicalisation. The rule of law. The importance of laws, whether they be those that govern the class, the school, or the country, are consistently reinforced throughout the school day. Don't start me now. As well as when dealing with behaviour and through school assemblies. What schools are there for is not to bring out the true potential, the true uniqueness of children and young people. It's there to program a version of reality and to turn people into acquiescent slaves who will obey laws no matter what those laws are. So you come out of the womb and in 3-4 years you're in a classroom and authority is telling you what to think, what's right, what's wrong, when you can go to the toilet, when you have to be there, when you can leave, and all that happens in between. And to do that, they have laws called rules, and they enforce them. And that's preparing young people to have a complete adult life doing the same in terms of the rules and regulations of the state created by people in parliaments and in truth in the shadows through parliaments and through governments, which the people have no say in what those laws will or will not be. Children are taught the value, this school says, and reasons behind laws. All that I've just said. That they govern and protect us. They govern and protect us. In other words, they dictate to us and claim to protect us, most of them. The responsibilities that this involves and the consequences when laws are broken are also explained. You mustn't break laws, mustn't break rules. Teacher never does. Dead, be out of a job. Our schools rules, rewards and sanctions, which are displayed in all classrooms, referred to regularly and consistently, uphold a practical example of this. Visits from authorities such as the police help to reinforce the message. I bet they do. Our school rules, rewards and sanctions. Follow the rules, you'll be fine. You may even get a bit of benefit. Challenge the rules because you don't agree with them. Bad move. And that is the message from the earliest age that the system wants kids to take through the rest of their lives. Now, individual liberty. Would it be nice if we had some? That'd be lovely. Within school, children are actively encouraged to make decisions and choices. Now, here we go. Decisions and choices. Now, this is one of the great scams, freedom of choice. Now, if I put a cake on the table and an apple on the table, and I say, you've got a free choice, people might think, well, yeah, I've got freedom. I can have the apple or I can have the cake. The point is, the apple or the cake are not the only choices possible. And what the state calls choice is the choices, all of which suit the state, which you're then given the choice to choose between. So, encouraging choice. But that's saying if people make other choices, then they could be dangerous and going through radicalization. I know there'll be people looking at this and saying, yeah, you've got to stop ISIS. This is not about that. This is not about that. It's about freedom as a whole and having different views and the right to have them as a whole. Children are encouraged to know, understand and exercise their rights and personal freedoms. Well, clearly they're not, because there's rules galore. And you can't have an opinion outside the norm or you're being radicalized. Children are given the freedom to make choices and make decisions, so long as they suit the school and so long as they suit the state. Our school says we are actively challenging children, staff or parents expressing opinions contrary to fundamental British values, including those expressing extremist laws or extremist views. So, hold on. They, at this school, are actively challenging children, staff or parents who express opinions contrary to fundamental British values, which the state has decided what British values is and doesn't follow any of them when it's voting for war, voting to change policy that create massive austerity and suffering among people in their own country, that sell arms to Saudi Arabia by the billions of pounds at a time to suppress people in Saudi Arabia and to drop them on places like Yemen. These are British values. It's such bullshit. It's such hypocrisy. And in terms of the schools who are teaching our children, it's such naivety, ignorance, and acquiescence to the state.